Hi, everyone, and welcome inside Rack Scottsdale for the Sun Devil Source podcast presented by Jones Auto Centers. Gabby Chernoff and Chris Cartman with you here today for a full review of ASU's game this past Saturday at Iowa State. Pretty unexpected outcome and some adverse conditions, both weather-wise and within ASU's team, Chris.
And you were rained on quite heavily. There was some sleet.
I knew it was going to be cold, and I knew at least one person was going to tell me when I complained that it was cold, "Oh, you're from Colorado. You should be fine."
I said that before the game even started.
Yes, he did, and I heard it multiple times on the field, but I was never standing outside in the cold in Colorado for 4 hours. A fun experience nonetheless, but I did get rained on.
Yeah, the game wasn't expected to have a bunch of rain and mid-40s conditions. ASU obviously handled it a lot better than going to Utah. Figured Jeff Sims would run the ball a lot more, maybe not nearly as much as he did, and that's probably the reason why I and a lot of other people expected ASU would not be able to win that game. But as we're going to cover in great detail, that was a pretty impressive performance.
And as always, we'll get into an injury report, all the newsworthy shenanigans from this past weekend, all the new developments, and then we'll talk about, of course, Jeff Sims' record-breaking performance, very impressive by him, AP National Player of the Week, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week as well.
That's crazy when you think about
it. It is crazy, and then we'll talk about Sam Levit and what his season-ending injury means for his future, both in college football and perhaps at ASU. So Kenny Dillingham provided a brief injury update for this bye week, who might be back for West Virginia, what everyone's injury timelines are looking like. So we will hear that now, and then Chris, I'll let you give your take on it.
I think Prince Dorba has a really good shot. I think Tate Rodney has a really good shot to return in those two games. We're still, X is working his butt off to try to get back, whether that's West Virginia. He's doing everything he can to get back. JT's doing everything he can to get back. His timeline's probably more Colorado, from where his injury was. It's probably trending more to have a chance at that one. But he's doing everything he can to get back. So I don't want to leave anybody else out. But I think for the most part, those are the guys that would potentially have a chance to get back. No, Sip's probably going to be out for the year. That's just not trending in he's doing everything he can to get back to. It's just not trending in a direction for him to return this year.
All right, Chris, we heard who might be back for West Virginia, Jordan Tyson. It's looking like he'll be back to his old school in Colorado. And just what do you make of how ASU, one, played through all of its injuries last weekend and what these injuries could mean for the last 3 games of the season?
Yeah. Luke Lemler wrote a great story at Sun Devil Source, a sidebar to our main story that really outlined all of the injury issues that ASU had to deal with throughout the season. And on Saturday, think about it. No Sam Levit, QB1, one of the better quarterbacks in the country. No Jordan Tyson, maybe the best wide receiver in the country. Kyson Brown, ASU starting running back to start the season, is going to be out for the season, it appears, from what Kenny Dillingham said today, with a foot injury. ASU didn't have Ben Coleman, who's out for the season with an arm injury. Prince Dorba, one of their better defensive ends, didn't play. Xavier Alford, their all-conference level safety, didn't play. That's quite a lot to deal with, right? And then other guys are playing through an assortment of injuries on top of that. ASU took 6 players to Big 12 Media Days back in July. 4 of those players did not play on Saturday. And for ASU to win that game, to be 6-3 at this point in the season, 4-2 in conference play, that's a testament to their ability to fight through adversity and handle some of these situations that they've been put into. I think there was some thought after the Houston loss, which was really disappointing, that they might go into the tank. And with Jeff Sims taking over at quarterback for the remainder of the year, maybe ASU would slip away and into the night, and you wouldn't really be involved in the Big 12 picture anymore. And that is absolutely not what happened. They played a tremendous game defensively. Offensively, Jeff Sims did more than enough to put ASU in position to win that game. And, Now moving forward, I think they're going to get some of these guys back, it seems like, from what Dillingham said. Looks like Prince Dorbo will be able to play after the bye week when they host West Virginia. Tate Romney, one of their linebackers. We didn't even mention Cyrus Fiasse, whose linebackers out for the season, because there's so many of these guys that have been affected by injuries. And then offensively, Jordan Tyson's the one that we're really watching. And with the hamstring, it seems like Dillingham said that maybe Colorado, as you mentioned, so perhaps he could be back for the last couple games of the season and into the postseason. That would give them a nice jolt in the passing game, though, as we're going to get into, some other guys really stepped up in that capacity.
Well, you mentioned this team's ability to overcome adversity. Kenny Dillingham said today that's one of the things he's most proud of, that he loves the most about this team in particular, is just their ability to overcome adversity and kind of just hit the nail right on the head when it comes to it, approaching it with more of an attacking mindset rather than a fearful mindset, and especially with Jeff Sims. I mean, we haven't seen him as a starter win a game for the Sun Devils, and then he comes out at Iowa State and does exactly what he did. We all saw it. His teammates and coaches had plenty good things to say about him after the game as well, and so we have kind of a little highlight reel with some of that perspective included, and then we'll talk about just how good Jeff Sims played in this game this weekend.
This is great. People are going to love watching this.
Prepared to do whatever it was to win this game for this team. And, everybody around me helped. The O-line did a good job. They played physical. Defense went out there and held it down, so we just made sure that we played together. That was our big focus this week.
Jeff was all in on doing whatever he could to win that football game. That's Jeff. Jeff's a really good football player. It's the first time in his entire career he's been in the same system for 2 years. And he had a week of practice. He's a good football player. He threw the ball well. He controlled the perimeter. He made all the plays. His interception was on me, not him, at the end of the first half. I think he set the school record for rushing, which was told to me. That's Jeff Sims. I mean, good things happen to good people.
It meant everything, man. Every week we do Bible study on Wednesdays. And my mom, after, she'll ask for prayer requests for me and my little brother. And we just pray every week for an opportunity and to come out victorious, and our prayers was answered. They've been there with me every step of the way. So I'm going to acknowledge them every chance I get, win or lose. These guys, we go to work every day. We just never lose faith. And we played complete football today. We played team football today, and it just showed out there on the field.
Just a proud brother moment. He comes every day to work. Preparing like he's the starter, so and we go out with him like he's the starter. So the same work enthusiasm that we have with whoever's out there, he's gonna get the same thing. It's we don't just die down to work because who's in. We rise to the occasion for anybody that's behind that O-line. Every day we put our head down and come to work. That's all I can say. He does a great job of that. Take care of his body. See when it matters the most, we're gonna lean on him. So everybody trusts him. Coaches trust him for a reason. We're going to keep putting him back out there. We're going to keep showing you what he can do.
I text Jeff before the game. You know what I'm saying? Just let him know we behind him. We ain't worried about nothing. And team behind him just like we behind Sam. And, you know what I'm saying? How we feel about Sam, how we feel about him. And, I feel like it was just the right thing to go out there and let him know that before the game. And y'all seen it. You know what I'm saying? We just, we play for him. And, you know what I'm saying? He played for us. And it's just a team effort. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad that he trusted me. He told me that after the Utah game, I was kind of hurt by it. And then he told me, like, man, I trust you. If you get your shot again, it's on you. Like, I trust you. So I'm glad that he trusted me. And I'm glad that we just got this win, man. We've been practicing it all week. And I feel like just the confidence grew, me being here second year in the system. And I felt like that was just a big piece of what we needed to do.
All right, Chris. We talked about it in our post-game show. We've talked about it a bunch. But AP Player of the Week, National Player of the Week, and then the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. 228 rushing yards, broke the ASU record for rushing yards in a single game by a quarterback. That record was set in 1978 by Mark Malone. So pretty impressive stuff, and we saw share a nice moment with his parents after the fact as well. He was salsa dancing on TNT, and I mean, it's got to feel good. He's a sixth-year senior. He spent 3 years at Georgia Tech and then a little bit of time at Nebraska as well, and then he came back to ASU for his 6th year, knowing that he was going to be backing up Sam Levit. So that one says a lot about his character. And Kenny Dillingham today said Jeff Sims is everything that's right about college football. So just what was your overall assessment of how Jeff Sims played on Saturday?
Yeah, he played really great for the circumstances. I think people forgot that Jeff Sims had 40 touchdowns when he was at Georgia Tech for 3 seasons and was a highly regarded transfer portal quarterback when he ended up making the move to Nebraska, and that didn't work out. They tried to use him in a different way than is best suited for him. And really, even in Jeff Sims' first 2 starts at ASU Cincinnati last year when Sam Levit had the rib injury, and then Utah earlier this year, I don't think that ASU maximized the style that is best suited for Jeff Sims. And I got to say, of course, Cam Scadaboo was on the team last year with Cincinnati, and so you're not probably going to change all that much going into that particular game. Utah plays a style of defense that is not as conducive to that approach as Iowa State with the way that they deploy their safeties. And Marcus Arroyo, I think, saw the opportunity in this game to take advantage of the way that the Cyclones tend to line up defensively. And then they tweak some of their play concepts a little bit to give them a little extra tag. And then they added, several other plays that were really not that difficult. But when you have a 4x1 set and a linebacker has to go out of the box and you don't have that extra run defender, and you got some of these guys rolling downhill the way that ASU's offensive line did, which won the Big 12 Offensive Line of the Week for the performance, even without Coleman, even when you have Wade Helton and Makua Pule and Makai Stewart and others out there who haven't really played that much. I thought that was a really smart approach that they took to utilizing Jeff Sims. It wasn't a perfect performance by any stretch. He had 3 turnovers. The ball security was a little bit of an issue. He had fumbled a couple times. I think the interception before the half was probably a coaching mistake, which Dillingham said they shouldn't have been throwing the ball in that situation. Run it, punt it, get out of there before the half. One of the runs that was a fumble probably also, wasn't really a play where he should have been carrying the ball. He has had fumble issues in the past. That's a concern. He slid on a long 3rd down where he should have been diving head first, try to pick up a first down that cost them a punt that they had to have. He didn't get enough loft on the ball on the 4th and 3 that ASU went for it with Raleek Brown open in the end zone. That touchdown could have been the dagger of that game and ended it. But as you said earlier, ASU's not playing cautiously. Like, they're gonna try to win these games. Dillingham was asked earlier in the week about getting some freshmen ready because you got 4 games left and you can do that. And he was like, no, we're trying to win. And they did a really good job. I think the players had confidence and belief in Jeff Sims and what he was capable of doing out there. And that quarterback +1 run game, that design QB run game, it is a problem for a lot of opponents. Utah did it to ASU really successfully with Devin Dampier. And then Connor Wegman in Houston did that extremely well. And now ASU kind of turned the tables and was able to do that against Iowa State and made the most of it.
Well, it was definitely kind of different for me to see. I'm filming and a quarterback actually sliding. ASU's quarterback
Yeah,
sliding.
Sam Levit does.
Sam Levit notoriously can't slide. He just kind of, if he tries to slide, he kind of just like stops and then like plops down on the field.
Yeah.
It's very funny to watch. So when Jeff Sims did it, because I'm so used to just seeing Sam Levit do that, I was like, oh yeah, you can. That's something you can do, and you're supposed to do a lot of the time.
Sure.
But you mentioned how ASU kind of adjusted its scheme, and before the game even you said that was something that was going to be a recipe for success for that Iowa State game, and we know Sam Levit's out for the season, so beyond that as well, do you think this scheme is something that's sustainable, that ASU can keep up consistently through its last 3 games, West Virginia, Colorado, and then the Teacup?
Yeah, they don't really have a choice. Bottom line is, you got Jeff Sims, you don't have much in the way of quarterbacks behind him. In fact, Cam Dyer, who was the backup to Sims, who's a true freshman coming in from New Mexico, he was just cleared this week, last week on Monday, before they practiced in full on Tuesday and Wednesday. He had torn his ACL in a state championship game in New Mexico. He was the New Mexico Gatorade Player of the Year, the #1 offensive prospect in New Mexico's 2025 class. He's big and athletic, and he's similar in some ways to Jeff Sims. He played a lot of wide receiver when he was earlier in his career. So other than him, they have Michael Tollefson, Butter Tollefson is what he goes by, and he also is an athletic dual threat quarterback. They don't have a pocket passer who has anywhere near the type of skills that they can try to win in a more traditional way. So even if some of these opponents might not be as defensively vulnerable to this quarterback run style, you're still going to see it. And they'll put some different wrinkles, in that are part of what they're going to do. I think depending on the opponent. Like in this game, they did a really good job of taking advantage of some of these bleed out, look like runs that were more play actions, and then Sims was able to hit some of these receivers coming across the field. He even missed Jalen Moss on one, but Jalen Moss really became involved as an outside receiver. We saw Jaron Hamilton de-emphasize in this game. And Shimon Mateer was one of the better tight ends for the week in the Big 12. We know that he's capable. I think Jason Mons, ASU's tight ends coach, told me that ASU is something like 17-3 when Shimon Mateer has at least one catch. So he's trying to get his players some love out there. But the reality is we said, running the ball with your quarterback, Jeff Sims, throwing the ball to your tight ends and your running backs, that's a strategy that ASU has to try to maximize when you don't have Jordan Tyson and your other wide receivers have not been able to deliver the type of production that you've been hoping for this season. Although I think that with Malik McClain, who had a nice catch again, kind of a shoestring grab across the middle, and what Jalen Moss did, that they are getting into some rhythm. And Jeff Sims seems to like to spread the ball around a little bit more, which they have to do when they don't have Jordan Tyson. And there were moments in that game, Gabby, where I felt like the offensive rhythm was better than it kind of had been, and they undermined themselves with penalties that took away 2 touchdowns on one drive, and then Sims fumbled the ball and lost it when they were in scoring territory. So if you look at it, there actually were opportunities to do even more than what they accomplished. One thing I saw somebody post on the internet was, well, if you take away Jeff Sims' 88-yard run, it wasn't really that good of a performance. And my response to that was, actually, it still would have been the record-breaking all-time ASU single-game record for most rushing yards by a quarterback by one run over something that happened in 1978. I don't know if you remember 1978. Probably not, Gabby.
I think that's all you, Chris.
I was going to say, I don't remember 1978. So, yeah.
Even my parents were still toddlers in 1978.
Exactly. So that was quite a feat that we were there to witness. And now they're going to have to try to do it again.
Yeah, take away the 88-yard touchdown run. I think he still had 177 passing yards, if I'm remembering that number correctly. And I guess it would be 2 touchdowns instead of 3. Still, I guess that's an okay performance.
That's how you win AP Offensive Player of the Week and Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. Like that. And seeing him hugging his family. You talked about the character that he has. And you could see in that moment, this is a guy who decides, okay, I could go start somewhere. Obviously, everybody wants to play in the NFL. If you get that opportunity, he's a quarterback. And he knows I'm not going to be playing ahead of Sam Levit. And this is my last year of college football. And he decided he wanted to show what he could do at ASU in the event that he was needed in this type of a situation. And then to have his parents there to be able to celebrate with him and hit the salsa dance before he gets interviewed on TNT. Wow, that was pretty cool. And his teammates, they were just really enthusiastic about what Jeff Sims was able to do in that game, and you just saw that everywhere.
Yeah, and I was right there as he was having that moment with his parents, and it was almost this palpable feeling of just gratitude and everything just kind of coming to a head for him. It was something that was kind of radiating, I guess, at that moment. And then Kenny Dillingham, to your point of he only has a few of these games left, the TNT crew was holding him up on the field saying, "Hold on, you got to wait to go to the locker room." Kenny Dillingham ran, I think he had gone into the locker room already. He ran out and he said, like, I don't care about these interviews. Like, he only has 4 of these left. Like, he's got to go in there and celebrate with his team. We got to get him a game ball. And then the TNT people were like, no, wait. And Doug Tamaro, ASU's SID, was like, no, like, he has to stay out here. He has to do the interview. But kind of to your point of, you said this was the strategy ASU needed, and you answered kind of half of this question already, but we've seen him start in 2 prior games. Cincinnati last year, and then a few weeks ago at Utah, Cam Scadaboo in the equation in that Cincinnati game last year. But blowout loss at Utah, why didn't they go with that? Why didn't they tailor the offensive scheme to that the last time that Jeff Sims started?
Yeah, so Utah is able to rock and roll at safeties. They'll play either one high, low. You don't really know. They'll bring them both down. What they did against ASU was at the outset of the game, they chose to play in these deep single high safety looks, which that sort of negates that +1 of the quarterback run game. And so, ASU needed to try to hit on vertical shots on the outside. And they threw some of those with Jeff Sims in that game that were very close to being completed, that were either well defended or the receivers couldn't come up with them. And I do think, though, that they probably should have had more of that installed for that game, because even if you're forcing a safety to come up and make a tackle after 5 or 6 yards and do that time and time again, there's a cumulative effect. There's the ability to wear the clock out, to try to slow the game down, make it a fewer possession game. I think that's what ASU probably needed to do against Utah. So that wasn't my what I would have done in terms of the preferred strategy. But Utah is so structurally sound with its defense that I think ASU felt like it probably wasn't going to be that effective. And then also keep in mind that when you have a quarterback who's asked to do that a bunch, you subject yourself to more wear and tear, potential injuries. I think that this style, although it's something that is now pervading college football more, you see it at a variety of schools. Vanderbilt has done it quite successfully. Dillingham mentioned that today, and other schools. It still creates a conundrum of, are you going to be able to keep your quarterbacks healthy? And as I said earlier, ASU doesn't really have another option who's got any level of experience or something that you could confidently say would be able to go out there and run an offense at this level, but they just are not going to have any sort of a choice. And guess what? TNT is going to be covering the next one because they like covering the last one so much. And it's going to be a 11 o'clock a.m. kick after the bye week, which is fascinating because ASU plays Gonzaga in basketball the night before at 9 p.m. So I might just sleep in the parking lot or ask Doug Tamaro if we can get into the stadium and pull a cot up.
Yeah, do they have
something.
like a bunker in there
We need
or something that you guys can crash at?
We need it because it's going to be like a 2 a.m. sleep, 7 a.m. wake up.
Yeah, those 9 p.m. basketball games are brutal, and then you got to be up early the next day.
At least it's not signing day, though. That's like the worst ones when they have it on signing day. But yeah, we'll make the best of it. And
we love our jobs.
Yeah, so much. It's amazing. It's so glamorous, everyone.
It's so glamorous every day. We just feel so blessed to get to talk to all of these athletes and cover this team, and it's just sunshine and rainbows all the time.
Truly, it is enjoyable. Like
it is.
We're sort of
we're joking.
We're sort of joking, but there was a lot of ASU fans that we saw on the trip, on the plane, and normally they're just like, oh, that's like so amazing that you're covering sports, and yeah, it's not easy. It's a lot of work that goes into it, but we enjoy it. And I would also say that this particular version of ASU that we're covering right now, at least in football, it makes it a little bit easier because the coaching staff and media relations, they're so friendly, user friendly, and easy to get along with. And I think that makes it a little bit more of an enjoyable experience versus some things that we've dealt with. Not you, but some things that I've dealt with over the years.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, amazing to me. Even this is the only really like media landscape, professional media landscape that I've ever been in. But even to me, it's amazing just how much like access we get and how media friendly. One, the SIDs are, and two, like the coaches, player staff. Like we get so much access, and talking to people who go to journalism school or who cover sports at other schools, it's
a scary scene. A lot of places, they don't even get to watch preseason camp almost at all. We're there every single day, wide open. Practices during the season, wide open. They have so much trust and respect for what we're doing, that we'll go out there and we'll see, oh, these players are injured in the non-conference or whatever before there's the official injury report, or on Tuesday when there's no injury report until Wednesday at 7 p.m. And they have confidence in us to be able to do our jobs responsibly and that stuff not get out there. So I think it's also good for ASU. Like ASU's fans enjoy the ability to get a lot more consumption of our content and our coverage, which is made a lot easier by having coordinators available every week. Dillingham, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, talking to the media. That doesn't happen anywhere. Players, you can talk to almost any players that you want. A lot of places, it's like, hey, you can only talk to these select players every week, or you don't get any players. And so we are very fortunate to be covering ASU in that way. And that makes the job better and more enjoyable as well.
Sometimes I wonder what it's like from like an athlete or a coach perspective, especially Kenny Dillingham. I mean, we talked to him like 3-4 times a week sometimes.
Yes, 4 times a week.
And he'll talk for like a half hour straight every time.
Student media, answer all their questions, like never condescending. A lot of coaches can get a little snarky or whatever. It's pretty cool to when you have the ability to compare that to other things historically or other schools, and what I hear from colleagues around the 24/7 Sports Network and what they have to deal with. Like we're very fortunate.
We certainly are. So we've talked about ASU's offense, everything that it did this past weekend. We're going to hear a quick word from our presenting sponsor, Jones Auto Centers, and then we'll touch on defense and special teams. I feel like a dark cloud just appeared over my head, even saying it.
Got to do it.
But we'll play this Jones ad, and then we'll be right back.
For over 60 years, the Glenn Jones name has been recognized for integrity and honesty.
From the Jones Auto Centers in Wickenburg.
Jones Ford Verde Valley.
Take a nice country drive out to Buckeye.
When you're talking about Arizona's best, you're talking about the Jones Auto Group. It's quick, fast, strong.
I want to invite you to visit our new facility in Casa Grande and enjoy our country-style way of doing business. We're the Joneses.
Welcome back inside Rack Scottsdale for the Sun Devil Source podcast presented by Jones Auto Centers, Gabby Chernoff, and Chris Cartman. Let's talk about ASU's defense. They played very well last week, and we've seen them play very well throughout the entirety of the season as well. For the most part.
Utah, no. But
not quite.
Otherwise, yes.
That was addressed. You know, the players admitted that they were embarrassed by their performance, and then they came back, beat the number 7 team in the country the week after that. So we're going to hear from Kenny Dillingham really fast. His thoughts on ASU's defense this past weekend, and then we'll get into our thoughts.
I think, October we faced really good teams. And when you face really good teams, if you don't play great, it doesn't go good at all. And I think we had a really hard schedule, and we didn't play our best football on top of having a hard schedule, and that's not a good combination. But I think it probably was their best game. I mean, Iowa State was moving the football all year productively, and I think during the football game, for the most part, other than some of the turnovers and the short fields, our defense did a really good job stopping them. And so I was super proud with how those guys played.
All right, ASU, the only team in the country to have played 8 teams all above 500. A very tall task for ASU's defense, who have played very well. We saw it again at Iowa State last weekend. Chris, what do you make of ASU's defense last weekend and just throughout the season as a whole?
I said before the season I thought this would be one of the better ASU defenses in a long time, and I think that they've proven that they are. They had a stinker of a performance against Utah that was a little bit inexplicable given the circumstances, and I think that they were mature enough and have a professional enough mindset to be able to understand that, be told that, and come back and play a lot better. It wasn't really their fault what happened against Houston, not really. Connor Wegman, I thought, played his best game, and there were some opportunities that they didn't take advantage of, but that was mostly ASU's offense being completely inept for 3 quarters and special teams catastrophe. As we know,
I feel like we have to find new adjectives every week to describe that.
I'm trying. I'm a writer, so I probably can come up with a few more. But look, they've held several of these Big 12 teams under 300 yards from scrimmage. Rocco Beck didn't play well for Iowa State, but part of that was ASU. One of their top running backs, one of their 2-headed monster running backs, didn't wasn't healthy totally. He wasn't out there. But, man, ASU was thumping defensively. Some of those big hits, Miles Rouser coming off the suspension in the first half after the targeting, he lays out the Iowa State running back. And then their star tight end got blown up in a little bit of a scary situation by Keith Abney. And I just feel like the physicality that they bring against the run, it really sets the tone for everything else that they do. Remember, this is one of the least blitzing teams in Power 4 football, maybe in FBS. I think they're second fewest blitzing in Power 4 football. They play a very sound, structurally solid type of football where they're very good on the back end. Boogie Wilson has done a extremely impressive job replacing an all-conference player in Xavier Alford, and Rouser is a he sets the tone with his physicality against a lot of these teams. When you're playing a base 4-2-5 nickel, you need that nickel player, Kendrick Breedlove, and your boundary safety, Miles Rouser, to be very physical at the point of attack. Those guys have done a good job replacing Shamari Simmons. No easy task in that regard. CJ Fight doesn't get nearly enough mention. This is a guy who he eats double teams for lunch and dinner. Then he wakes up the next morning. He does it for breakfast, and then he just keeps doing it. He had an amazing play where he got off a block and got to make a tackle. He's not going to get a lot of flash plays or sacks or whatever. It's not sexy, but it just is that like center pillar that keeps everything else in place around him. And Keyshawn Elliott had 10 tackles in the game. Jordan Crook had an interception that was really big on the fourth quarter, and he's played extremely well. Some of these guys, as we said, they've been injured and hurt. Like they weren't even practicing for the whole week before Houston. I think that contributed. When you don't have Crook or Rouser or Wilson practicing that whole week, that's another factor on top of the injuries that they've had up front with their D-line and on the offensive side. I just can't stress enough. It's so hard in the modern college football when you have a lot of money invested in star players in this, salary cap era, revenue share era at ASU. A lot of that money is on the shelf. It's just sitting on the sidelines, and you got other guys that need to step up and make a lot of plays and be invested and be reliable. And that defense did a lights out job in that game of making Rocco Becht uncomfortable, preventing the run game from being established. Their Benjamin Bramer, their star tight end, did not have a big performance. He got walloped by Abney. Their other leading receiver did not catch anything of significance. I mean, that was like an A- to an A performance by Brian Ward and ASU's defense. It sucks that we keep burying the defense behind all of the injuries and the offensive stuff, because it sort of discounts to some degree how good that they've actually been this season. I've been extremely impressed.
And even more impressive considering how you just mentioned injuries. This defensive core has been pretty injured, as well as Iris Fiaseu out for the year. Xavier Alford has been out. We haven't seen him since Texas State, I believe. And then Miles Rouser not injured, but we didn't see him that first half of Iowa State due to a targeting call the prior week that took him out of the game. And had the defense not played well against Iowa State, ASU would have been a lot more up in the air.
Much tougher.
Who would have won that game? But special teams certainly did not help.
Everybody just turned us off.
Everybody turned us off. They know what we're going to say.
Yeah.
They're like, we know, stop talking about it, but we got to talk about it.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to change your personnel or your schemes. We talked last week about Charlie Ragle, his health situation. They turned over the managerial duties, other special teams, to a young and relatively inexperienced person. But they did change their snapper, but then they still had from Tyler Wigglesworth one high snap on a punt that they did a good job. Canyon Floyd did a good job of grabbing and being able to get off earlier in the game. He just dropped a punt that kind of, that was an issue. Still got the punt off. You had a penalty on the very first kickoff of the game. Later on in the game, I do think that they did a better job of, getting some of these punts that were not pretty looking, but they did roll to get the bounding punts that were down inside the 20. That had some, impact. You didn't have anything bad happen in the return game, really, on either side of the ball. And I think the field position, they did well in the second half in particular, and that contributed to their ability to win the game. So this wasn't one of their worst defensive special teams performances, pardon me, but still left a lot to be desired.
Now, we know they can't change the scheme in the middle of the season, especially given the personnel that they do have. And there's just kind of a lot of, I guess, questions and instability, almost, I want to say, with having to bring in Jack Nudo to be the acting special teams coordinator. With all of that considered, given how consistently we've seen special teams not perform up to par, can it get better?
Yeah, it definitely. Just eliminating the penalties. Like, you got to know, okay, we can't get block in the back penalties. We can't have holds on our returns because we're probably not going to have big runs. If I'm the coaches, I'm like, hey, we're probably not going to break off some big runs. Maybe we will, but we can't go backward and start at the 10 because we tried to have a return. That just doesn't work. And the operation of their snapping, punting, and their snapping, kicking, like that should be better. I don't know if it will be, but it should be better. It should allow more consistent rhythm with Canyon Floyd. Perhaps the quad injury that he's dealt with is going to be trending in a better direction. Jesus Gomez, the operation, has been responsible for several of his misses this season, almost all of them, maybe one or two notwithstanding. And look, Iowa State in that game missed a 49-yarder and like a 55-yarder at the end of the half. And so she was on the other foot on that one, where had they made a couple of those field goals and had better special teams, they also had the bad snap on a PAT that then they had the illegal guy try to kick it off the ground, weird play. So they had a bad, so maybe ASU won the special team somehow for the week, Gabby. So that's a good place to plant your flag and then try to enjoy the bye week and get better with Jack Nudo and close it out in a much healthier fashion the last few games.
Well, there we go. We'll leave it at that. They won the special teams battle against Iowa State. We'll be back with our Sly move of the week. We just have one this week. We're going to let it shine on its own after a quick word from our sponsor, drinkonthesly.com. All right, there was Jeff Sims' 88-yard rushing touchdown. He said he doesn't think he's had one that long in his entire collegiate career, all part of his 228-yard rushing performance of the entire game. Chris, what does that play specifically say about kind of what's possible with so much doubt that came up after Sam Levit was ruled out for the season? What does that say about kind of what this team can accomplish through its last three games?
That was the most emblematic play of their game and the best representation of what they need to be in the final third of their schedule, essentially. And it was a very smart concept by Arroyo. That was the actual play where they had a 4x1. They never do that. You had five linemen, Jeff Sims by himself in the backfield. Everybody else is outside. You force linebackers outside. You force a safety to try to make a play in space. Safety kind of took a bad angle on that one, got cut off. And Jeff Sims did a really good job of sliding to his right into the hole and was untouched for most of that run. Again, they're going to have to lean on him the rest of the way. And they're going to have to figure out different ways creatively to be able to run it with Jeff Sims. You know, you got the sprint option, you got the outside quarterback runs, you got the QB power, QB draw. You got to figure out all the different ways that you can do it. And they also had a flea flicker early in that game. So there's going to be some razzle dazzle, I think, that fans are going to see to try to figure out a way to win. Remember, we're going to talk about it next week in a lot more detail, but they're playing West Virginia next. West Virginia, coached by Rich Rodriguez, formerly at Arizona. He had Khalil Tate, who was a similar quarterback style-wise to Jeff Sims, and he understands quarterback run game about as well as any coach in America. So, and he's going to have, this experience now seared into his brain and figure out, okay, talking to my defensive staff, what are we going to need to do to stop or be prepared for this Jeff Sims quarterback run action? And so this is going to be now a chess match between Arroyo and West Virginia's defensive coaches to figure out who can be ahead of the game, if they're going to make tailored adjustments. When Devin Dampier did the same thing to ASU, Brian Ward, ASU's defensive coordinator, made some structural changes that were quite different than what he would normally do defensively about 4 or 5 series into the game. And that had some effect in the second half. But by then, ASU was already too big of a hole that he had climbed into. Not saying that was really Brian Ward's fault. There were so many missed tackles, an insane number. I think somebody told me there was 160, 170 yards of offense by Utah after first contact on the ball carrier. And a good performance is more like 30, 40, 50 yards after first contact. So that was terrible. But let's see how these coaches craft a game plan for West Virginia and then subsequently for the rest of the games. Super impressive. Even without the 88-yard run, still would have been the all-time rushing leader by a quarterback in ASU history for a game.
Well, it certainly seems like that performance by Jeff Sims kind of instilled a new sense of hope and optimism within ASU's fan base. I mean, I was all over Twitter. Twitter loves him now. There's like a meme going around. It says memes. like this if you're a real Jeff Simser, and it's just like a bunch of pictures of Jeff Sims with like hearts and rainbows. And
ASU's football account used the same verbiage as a fan who said, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's if I'm the only Jeff Sims fan, then I'm going to ride with that.
I'm the only person left in the world. If there's no Jeff Sims fans, I'm dead.
That's it.
There you go.
You did it better than me.
But with that, we got to talk about Sam Levit. He's having surgery this week, as we've mentioned. He's out for the season. Kenny Dillingham briefly talked about, without trying to say too much, what that conversation is going to be like with him. Whether he decides to go pro, stay at ASU. So we'll hear from Kenny Dillingham and then hear our thoughts.
Yeah, I said during the bye, I think on the radio, but I'll probably give him, he's got to get surgery. He's got to take care of himself. I'll probably give him a couple weeks and, let him get through this. We're not in a rush. I want him to make the best decision for him in terms of whether to go pro or not, and what him and his team believe are the best decision for him. That's why I do this. So, give him some time to get healthy and get surgery done with and get back around the team and get his head, back in a good direction of progress. And then we'll have that conversation just like most of our guys, right after the season or right around then.
So later in the week, we're going to have a premium podcast. You don't even know this, but we're going to have
this is breaking news to me.
We're going to have a premium podcast that's going to talk about this situation in a lot of detail because there's many factors that go in to how Sam Levit fits into the current world of college football, where it's revenue share. These quarterbacks are making 7 figures a year. They got tough decisions that they have to make every single year. You have this new entity, the College Sports Commission, that's supposed to regulate NIL. Are they going to be able to do that? Are boosters and collectives going to say, forget it, sue us? Are the schools going to adhere to the rules that they agreed to with the House versus NCAA settlement? Will there be appeals process that changes that in the interim? Will that affect any of these things? It's going to be a long conversation. But the bottom line thing that I would really want to make sure ASU fans understand, and just college football fans in general, is Sam Levit is a very tough, physical, passionate football player. He wants to play football, no doubt about that. And he got hurt, suffered a foot injury against Baylor, was limping around in practice that we saw before TCU. I didn't think he'd be able to play, honestly. Went out there, gave it his all. The foot wasn't getting better. Ultimately, they made the decision that he was going to have to take a game off. Came back. Obviously, ASU had a great performance against Texas Tech. Following week, he's, again, not 100%, still not nearly close to that. And then against Houston, he got hurt again, got tackled on the foot, trying to be out there, make plays. And then that led to the decision that he needed to have surgery. And this is going to be a months-long recovery process. And Sam Levit did not play well enough. His body of work was not good enough, in my opinion, early on in the season, and then through the injury when he was playing at far less than 100%, for him to be a first or maybe even second round draft pick in next year's NFL draft. And so we're talking about many millions of dollars difference between what was possible for him and what is now the likely reality, especially when you have a multi-month rehabilitation process that has to take place through what would be their winter preparations for the draft and pro day and all of these things. And so I would say 80%, maybe 90% potentially, somewhere in there, is the likelihood that Sam Levit will be playing college football again next year.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand is what you said. Sure, he could enter the draft this year and be, a third, fourth round pick, but there's a huge disparity in the amount of money even a first and second round pick make in their signing bonuses. So that's just, I've kind of seen it online, people saying, oh, he's gone after this year. He's good enough to get picked. He doesn't want to be picked. He wants to be selected in the first round.
Keep in mind, he's 3 years into college. Jeff Sims is in his 6th year of college. The quarterback that was compared by Dillingham, who was coached by Dillingham, is Bo Nix. Bo Nix was in 5 years in college. Sam Levit is going to, with a healthy, good season next year, significantly increase his draft stock, the amount of money that he will make. I'm talking about 20 million, 30 million, maybe more potentially. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that is what is out there for him. And by the way, playing college football next year, he's going to make more than $1 million, up to maybe 3 or 4 million. And so the big question, the thing that everybody's going to want to know is he going to be at ASU next season? And I don't know the answer to that. It is a possibility that he might not. I'm just putting that out there. I don't have any inside knowledge that he's exploring transfers or that he's going to transfer. I'm not saying that, but he has professional agency around him. He's got a lot of people advising him about what is in his best interest. It's important to remember that Jordan Tyson is going to be a first rounder next year, almost certainly. ASU is going to lose 3 or 4 starting offensive linemen. Shimon Mateer is going to be gone. A bunch of ASU's defensive starters are going to be gone. So Sam Levit is going to have to be confident that enough will be added in the transfer portal and with what's returning to ASU to put him into the position to where ASU can showcase him and have the type of season that will help him achieve the type of draft stock that he wants. I mean, ultimately, there's nothing that makes me think that Sam Levit isn't a team player for ASU. I think he's given his all to ASU. Is that going to be the case next year, or will he decide that some of these teams out there that are going to have an opening that are very high profile, your Miamis, Oregon, LSU, Georgia, other schools where that they're going to have a lot of talent? And is that potentially appealing to him or to people around him who might be in his ear? I think so. At least people in his circle, somebody's going to probably have that conversation with him. And so then that's going to be a determination that's made with his group in concert with Dillingham and the people around him. And we're going to see what happens. And as I said, we're going to talk about this in a lot more detail in a member-only podcast. If you like these, subscribe to that.
Yeah, certainly a lot just up in there, lots of things to consider for Sam Levit. as he recovers from that foot injury. But just briefly before we wrap it up, let's talk about the Big 12 race. Only one undefeated team left. That's BYU. They were on a bye last week. And then College Game Day headed down to Lubbock for BYU, Texas Tech. That's 2 Big 12 games in a row for College Game Day, Chris. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah, ASU fans are catatonic because that hasn't happened for ASU in over 20 years now since Game Day visited, which is that's rough. There's really 6 teams that are still in the picture right now. You mentioned 2 of them: BYU undefeated, Texas Tech. Of course, ASU beat Texas Tech. Then you have Cincinnati and Houston are very much still kind of in the picture. Utah is still very much in the picture, and ASU. Those are all teams that have between the 1 no-loss team to the 2 loss teams. And they're all playing a few more games. We saw West Virginia just beat Houston. West Virginia was one of the worst teams in the Big 12 until this past weekend.
And that's good for ASU. Adds another 2-loss team into the mix. The more 2-loss teams, the better for ASU's chances.
Correct. So ASU needs to win out for sure. And then there's a bunch of different scenarios that could put ASU into the Big 12 championship game again. The most likely, I think, would be BYU beating both Texas Tech and Cincinnati, and then Utah losing another game, Houston losing another game. That scenario would probably do it. That would do it for ASU, I believe. But there's some others, and we can't go through all the permutations now. But as the weeks move on, next week I think we'll have a much better idea. The following week I think we'll have a really good idea. And, of course, ASU is going to have to beat West Virginia and then be able to go into Colorado and Arizona with its life still very much in the picture. And we're going to, of course, be covering all of that.
Well, ASU, you heard it, has to win out. West Virginia, Colorado, and Arizona, the 3 teams left. The Sun Devils are slated to play.
And chicken on a ranch.
And
chicken
ranch on a chicken
ranch
wing.
on a chicken wing.
It smells like, as you say that, it smells like buffalo wings, and it smells like buffalo sauce, and it's really making me want buffalo wings.
You want to get some of that at Rack Scottsdale.
Maybe that's some good omen for Rack Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Every time we come here, I smell something cooking, and it makes me so hungry. And Chris, our producer over there, he has fries almost every
Chris
week.
Peterson's
Genuinely, fries are good. I'm not a crazy fry person, but I had some of those French fries, and they were really good French fries.
No, this place has good food.
Yeah.
And they also have Sly mixed drinks. If you want to get a Sly mixed drink, I would recommend that as well. So come on down. There's people that are about to enjoy the Monday Night Football game with the Arizona Cardinals. We timed this so that we could lead you right into the Arizona Cardinals game. National anthem is going. We're ending here. We're like the little appetizer to the rest of your football experience.
The opening act.
And maybe we're going to go get some wings to enjoy it as part of the appetizer.
Well, we thank you all so much for watching. And as always, we thank Rack Scottsdale for their incredible hospitality and hosting us here every Monday afternoon. We want to thank our other sponsors as well. Jones Auto Centers, drinkonthesly.com, El Bandito, Yankee Tequila, Devil's Liquor, and Devil's Vodka. No practice for ASU this week. Full week off until next Sunday before they get ready to take on West Virginia. So we'll have you covered again starting next Sunday, and then that premium podcast, like you mentioned, coming sometime this week.
And basketball season
Starting tomorrow.
We're gonna have a podcast after we get one look at the basketball team. That's going to give people a lot of insights onto the roster.
And hockey, first NCHC series of the year at home this Friday and Saturday.
Be there too.
He'll be there. This is a
everywhere.
foreign concept. Chris at a hockey game before January.
I was already out.
You already out one. You were already out one. Even that was a foreign concept. But again, we thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Gabby Chernoff and Chris Cartman. We'll see you in the next one.